Hey guys, welcome to another movie review. Today I'm talking about a film that I've heard about over the years, but never really got around to seeing it. And I've always been a fan of Harold Ramis. I loved his work in Ghostbusters and National Lampoon's Vacation, and he had a role in Knocked Up. And he's been in a lot of films that I've really enjoyed over the years, whether he's been acting in them or writing them, producing or directing them. But in the case of the film I'm about to review for you guys today, he did direct this film and looks like he co-wrote it as well, and that's the film Analyze This. I might review the sequel later on, but for now I'm just reviewing the first film for you guys today. That's Analyze This with Robert De Niro and Billy Crystal. So like I said, I've heard about this film over the years. I kind of vaguely remember it being available at Hollywood Video back when I had one here in my hometown in McFarland, Wisconsin. But it's just a film that I just never got around to seeing, whether it was on TV and I had something going on, or I rented something else at Hollywood Video at the time, or things in life happen, things in life show up, and sometimes there's just that one movie that gets away that you never get around to seeing until a pandemic happens, like right now. So that is the film I'm reviewing for you guys today. So in this film, Robert De Niro plays this mobster character that just gets involved with these really bad situations. He always gets involved in a situation where a bad shootout happens or somebody is trying to get murdered or assassinated. And so he has this really rough past. You find out about his past throughout the course of the movie. And it basically gets bad enough to the point where he kind of talks to like his right hand man at the mob and be like, look, I really need some therapy. Sometimes I need therapy in moments where maybe a therapist isn't available. So let's kind of look around, see what's out there, and see if I can get some type of therapy to help with these problems that I'm having. And so basically, he hears about this Billy Crystal character who's like this really well known therapist. He has a therapy session office in his home, he has a therapy session office in this other building somewhere. And so basically, he's kind of the go to therapist in the city that Robert De Niro's character is living in. And so it even gets so much to the point where he wants him so badly, where he's even willing to interrupt other therapy sessions that he has at that time just to make room for his own therapy that he needs at that given moment in time. So throughout this movie, because he's this mafia character, because there's things in the mob that kind of happen at any time of the day, morning, afternoon, midnight, evening, or whatever, he wants to have the Billy Crystal character available to him at all times to help with any kind of problems that he might be having. And he wants him to kind of be this. He's almost kind of treating him like an app on the phone, really. He really wants him to just kind of always be there when he needs him at that exact minute. And so obviously Billy Crystal is not okay with this. He's not comfortable handling a client that's from the mafia. He definitely would much prefer handling clients one-on-one or couples therapy and things that are much easier to handle for a job like what he has. And so he's kind of forced into the situation. He's also about to go through his second marriage in his lifetime. So he definitely wants to try to focus on that. He wants to make sure the wedding goes well. Even his wife, who's like this ex-Florida news reporter, left her job to basically move to New York with him to kind of pursue this marriage together. So obviously she has to sacrifice a lot to kind of make the marriage work and things like that. She has to get used to what's now her stepson because he had a son from a previous marriage. So there's just a lot of stuff going on in his life. And so throughout the course of this film, Robert De Niro is really just kind of forcing him to be this go-to therapist at any given moment where he needs him, while Billy Crystal's trying to get out of the situation, go back to his usual clients, and avoid having this mafia member be like his number one go-to client that he has almost at any time of the day as a therapist. But overall, guys, I liked this movie. I didn't love this movie. I liked this movie. I will say right off the bat, I've seen a lot of Harold Ramis films over the years. Like I said, whether he acted in them, wrote them, or directed them, or produced them. And I gotta say, he's definitely done a lot better films than this. I feel like some of his earlier and later films kind of establish a better comedic tone than this film did. This film's definitely trying to be both The Godfather and this therapy comedy at the same time, and sometimes the two tones don't always mix very well together. And it's also important to know I'm not a huge gangster genre fan person, so if for those who are wondering, oh well, he didn't clearly catch that Godfather reference, or he clearly didn't catch that Goodfellas reference, or he clearly didn't catch that Good Casinos reference, or Casino reference from the Martin Scorsese movie. I'm really not a huge fan of those films. I just kind of went into this film as a comedy, as a Harold Ramis fan. So that's definitely the part of the film that intrigued me so much about seeing this film over the years. Is definitely more so the comedy part than the gangster genre part. But like I said, it's a good movie. There's things that are good in it, but there's a lot of problems I have with this movie. So I'm definitely going to go over both of those over the course of this review. So for my positives of Analyze This, I really liked the Billy Crystal therapist. I thought he was really funny. I liked his comedic timing. Billy Crystal's always very good at that. Everything you would love about Billy Crystal is in his therapist character. I definitely like that he definitely would much prefer easier clients, clients that don't have as many complex problems, and that throwing this kind of mafia guy on his lap at this one given day that he had really just kind of messed everything up for him. It then his second marriage is not going as well as he was hoping it was going to go. Um, he really was hoping for this vacation by having this wedding happening. There's just a lot of things about this therapist character that I thought was really funny, and Billy Crystal pulled off this character really well. I also like when he has therapy sessions, in particular when he's having therapy sessions before the Robert De Niro character interrupts them and things like that. There's just a lot of really funny stuff in this movie. There's even a client he has, without giving into spoilers, where let's say the Robert De Niro stuff is kind of slowing down in the story at this point, where he has this couple that clearly is not having very good intimate experiences in their private time together. And he really just kind of gives it to him straight and tells him that life is too short and things like that. So there's just funny moments like that are just really, really funny. I really hope there was more of them in this movie. There's just enough of them, but I really like the therapy session moments enough where I wish there was kind of more of them just because I thought they were so funny. The film also does depict how bad and complex the mafia can be. This isn't a great example of a mafia movie. I think there's better examples out there. But obviously, this is a comedy film, so it's probably not trying to focus on that as much. But as far as the mafia scenes are concerned, I did think the scenes involving the mafia showed just how bad they can be and how complex the mafia can be. So I thought that part of the film was done very well. I also like how the kind of the theme of this movie between Billy Crystal and the Lisa Kudrow character from Friends. She has a role in this film as kind of the second marriage wife. I really like how the running joke between the two of them whenever they show up in the movie is their wedding always gets interrupted by this mafia stuff happening, whether it's them doing their vows or just the wedding itself being pushed back. There's just a lot of things like that. It's like a running joke in the movie. I thought that worked really well. So there's this constant joke about the wedding constantly getting interrupted. For the most part, I think it works pretty well. I also thought the film did a good job kind of contrasting the normal people with kind of these abnormal mafia characters, and kind of I thought the contrast between the two kinds of characters worked out very well. I thought Harold Ramis really depicted well what defies a normal person in this movie and what defies kind of this abnormal, violent driven mafia characters. So I like how the two of them kind of clash with each other and the contrast really show. So I thought that part of the film was also well handled as well. For my negatives of Analyze This, though, a lot of the mobster characters are very stereotypical here. They always have an accent. They always go to some Italian restaurant. They clearly are trying to nod to The Godfather in some certain moments in this movie, as well as Goodfellas. They always kind of depict how hard it is to leave the lifestyle when you want to leave it. And there's just a lot of things about it that felt very stereotypical to me. I felt like Harold Ramis really didn't do much to separate his vision of a mobster as to, say, The Godfather or Goodfellas, and to bring it into a comedy. I thought that aspect of the film could have been better handled, because there's a lot of moments here where some of the mafia stuff is actually dark enough where I feel like it kind of clashes with the comedy in a not so good way. So I thought that part of the film too also wasn't very well handled. So as far as these mafia characters go, they felt kind of stereotypical to me. There wasn't any super fascinating qualities about them. I also thought the third act of the film was very dragged out. There's even a scene where Billy Crystal's kind of dragged into this mafia meeting of sorts, and the scene plays out forever. The jokes are not funny in it. I guess the performances are fine in it, but I can just tell that part of the script really needed a good rewrite. It just was not funny. The jokes weren't landing. The serious moments didn't feel serious enough. And even Robert De Niro's character is very absent in this scene for most of the scene, and it's kind of about him too. So there's just certain moments like that where certain scenes feel really dragged out, in particular in the third act, unfortunately. I also thought a lot of the comedy in this film was very hit or miss. Some jokes land perfectly, like in some of the therapy sessions, while other jokes where a guy falls out a window during a wedding really don't kind of land very well, and they kind of take the film in a dark place that I really was kind of hoping it would avoid. So some of the jokes from this movie for me were kind of hit or miss, whether they were really, really funny or really, really not so funny. So I thought some of the comedy here was kind of could have been better written for this film. I also thought more interesting things could have happened with the Robert De Niro character. I really feel like really all his character is he's a guy seeking therapy. He has this tragic past. We kind of learn about it a little bit, but that's about it. Really, there should have been more about him, especially with all the screen time that his character gets. Um, I'm one of those people where if you're gonna really focus a film on a certain two characters in the whole movie, like this buddy film in a sense, you really got to make sure both those characters are really well written and really interesting because we are going to spend a lot of time with them. So there's just a lot of moments here where I feel like Robert De Niro's character is really just a guy with a tragic past. He needs therapy, and he had a tragic past, and that's about it. So I thought some certain parts of his character in this movie thought could have been a little better handled as well. So I'm going to give this film an 8 out of 10. I like this film. It's not an amazing film. I haven't watched the sequel yet, so who knows how I'm going to feel about that. Some of the Rotten Tomatoes reviews weren't so favorable on it, so I'll definitely have to see what the sequel is like. Who knows if I'll even like it at all, unfortunately, but I'll give it a view and see what I think, and I obviously will do a review for that if I do see it. For the first film here, Analyze This, it's a good film, just not a great film. I like things about it, but there's certain things that really could have been better in it. So 8 out of 10 for me. It's a moderate recommendation from me.